No, we are not closer to peace. President Donald Trump wants to exit out of this war as soon as yesterday. If Israel walks out of the security zone, the chances of Prime Minister Netanyahu coming back to power are very limited. Iran wants to play it slow. Remember, the Iran-Iraq war continued for 8 years. Strait of Hormuz will sometimes be open, sometimes be closed. The Gulf countries have realized that this thing is not going to end. Countries like UAE will look for alternative ports. These are side players in the game, be it Qatar, be it Pakistan. But then you have these weird statements coming out of Vice President J.D. Vance, where he says that, he has two close allies. One is his wife, who's an Indian, Usha Vance, and then the other person is Asim Munir.
So do you think that there's any one nation that's enjoying the position that America is in? Hello and a very warm welcome to all. You're watching Hindustan Times and my name is Aayesha Varma. On this segment of Point Blank, a memorandum of understanding, moments of tension, Tehran closing the Strait of Hormuz once again. What exactly is happening in the Middle East? We look to HT's executive editor, Mr. Shishir Gupta, to bring us more. Sir, namaskar. So the first round of the US-Iran talks have taken place in Switzerland. The United States President Donald Trump has essentially told Tehran to give an unconditional surrender, also asking Hezbollah to back down. Are we any closer to peace now?
The simple answer to this question is no. We are not closer to peace. What we will see is that the low-intensity conflict will prevail in the region.
Okay.
For the very simple fact, just consider three of the things. First of all, Iran is an Islamic authoritarian state. It's fighting with two countries which are democratic, that is US and Israel.
Mm-hmm.
US midterm elections are in November. President Donald Trump wants to exit out of this war as soon as yesterday. He wants Iran to do a surrender on nuclear, and that Strait of Hormuz should be clear for global energy traffic. That's what he wants. His midterm election is in November. Cut to Israel. Israel, the general election is on October 27, 2026. Israel right now has security zones in Gaza, security zones in South Lebanon. That is basically Litani River, about 10 kilometers inside Lebanon. Israel has Golan Heights in Syria. Just consider the facts. Israel has made it very clear that it cannot leave the security zones because it will be targeted by Hezbollah and it has to emasculate Hezbollah. Iran will not allow Hezbollah to be emasculated because Hezbollah, Houthis, Kataib Hezbollah, they're all Iranian proxies. Hamas, all Iranian proxies. So Iran will continue to dominate the Middle East through its proxies. But Israel cannot, because if Israel walks out of the security zone, the chances of Prime Minister Netanyahu coming back to power are very limited. So it's very simple. The politics dominates the day. Israel can't back out of South Lebanon. It has to take care of Hezbollah because Hezbollah will continue to fire on Israel. President Donald Trump wants an exit. Iran wants to play it slow. It wants everything on a slow burner. It wants to continue talking. Remember, the Iran-Iraq war continued for 8 years. So these are people who continue to talk, and more talk. And deliveries are going to be less. Whatever the conversations that may have taken place in Switzerland do not make any difference because Israelis were not there. And Israel is a key player in the entire game. Prime Minister Netanyahu has made very clear that he is not dependent on US when it comes to Iran acquiring the nuclear weapon or using Hezbollah to target. The sum of the game is that Strait of Hormuz will sometimes be open, sometimes be closed. There could be some sporadic fighting, that is skirmishes in the same missile firing. But this region is not going to be stable, at least till the results of the two elections come in. See, the only good part in this entire thing that could happen is after the MOU has been signed and the negotiations that take place is that if Iran is allowed to export oil, then this would lead to, lowering of the oil prices globally, because Iran has perhaps the best crude, the Basra Sweet, which is which requires very minimum of refining. If Iran is allowed to export that, then the prices of oil will go down, and that will lead to generally sort of the inflation going down globally. This is the only good part about it. But if you don't link this up and you end up paying Iran some $300 billion for not capping its ballistic missiles or its drone capability or its proxies, then it's a win-win for Iran.
So there was also a fresh development that occurred earlier this morning. There were explosions at the Ras Laffan's gas unit at Qatar. While they are calling it an internal accident, where exactly does this leave the Gulf nations now that Iran has closed the Strait of Hormuz for the last 2 days?
Iran knows that Strait of Hormuz is a huge leverage that it has.
Okay.
And it will ensure that this will inflict pain not only on the Gulf countries, but also on the global economy. So everybody will be putting pressure on US to try and sort of, come out to some resolution in this. The Gulf countries have realized that this thing is not going to end. Countries like UAE will look for alternative ports like Fujairah and Khor Fakkan, which are on the Gulf of Oman. Countries which are stuck are Iraq, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, because they are within the Strait of Hormuz. And they will have to deal with Iran somehow. They have to prepare. See, it's a new normal that is now going to take place in the Middle East. Everybody has to have, different infrastructures. For instance, I'm told they're now looking at underground water desalination plants so that Iranians can't hit it. They're looking at alternative, pipelines. Like the pipelines which the UAE will lead to Fujairah and to Khor Fakkan. Similarly, Qatar has pipelines to UAE and Saudi Arabia, which have smaller diameter. They want to have bigger diameter, bigger thing. Similarly, you'll have to look at other pipelines and other, or else you deal with Iran, deal with Iranian, pay money, do whatever it is, somehow use the Strait of Hormuz. This is not going to be a normal. So every country is going to basically try and defend for itself. They're going to have better anti-ballistic missile, better anti-drone capability, and that's where it is. Saudi Arabia will also have to look at it. So if you look the entire region, Iran's proxies are Hezbollah, which is north of Israel. There is Houthis, which have dominance over Bab al-Mandab, which is sitting on the mouth of the Suez Canal, mouth of the Red Sea. And so anytime Israel wants to disrupt, it will disrupt using either proxies or directly firing into the Strait of Hormuz. So we are looking at a situation which is going to be deeply unstable for time to come. And this will continue. If you look at the Memorandum of Understanding, the Memorandum of Understanding is a generic one on which can be sort of, negotiated. The 60-day ceasefire can be, extended to 60 days more. But the fact remains is there are many things which are missing in that entire thing. First of all, where is the capping of the ballistic missile capability of Iran? Where is Iran, sort of ceding control over the proxies? Till such time it continues to fire missiles, till such time it continues to fire drones, underwater drones, it continues to use kamikaze boats, it continues to use Hezbollah, continues to use Houthis. This is not going to end. So we are in a bad place where the Iranian regime will continue to drag on the entire thing and will use all the choke points as the leverage. Be it Strait of Hormuz, be it Red Sea, Suez Canal, and basically create some sort of a chaos in that region. After all, Iran has also earlier been targeting in the North Arabian Sea also ships. It's going to be an unstable position, and the Gulf countries know that. They know that this is a long haul. Now, until and unless you have, politically President Donald Trump winning the midterm elections, which is not looking very good, and Benjamin Netanyahu coming back to power, then maybe some sort of solution can happen. Otherwise, it's going to, everybody knows what the game is all about right now.
So beyond this, the US president, one of his backers, Lindsey Graham, the senator, has essentially said that Trump will capture the Strait of Hormuz, levy a toll for providing security. What do you say to this?
See, Senator Lindsey Graham is actually, he's a big Trump supporter, but he exceeds his brief when he starts to say these things. I mean, he's the person who said that, levy 500% tariff on India for buying Russian oil. I don't give any credence to what Lindsey Graham is saying. But what he's trying to indicate is something very important. Point in all this is that you'll have to put boots on the ground if you were to dominate the Strait of Hormuz, if you were to capture Strait of Hormuz. Can America afford boots on ground? As long as there are no boots on ground and all is standoff targeting, this will not help. Understand the Iranian regime. The Iranian regime is the continuing Islamic revolution that continues. With the hardliners being at the top. There are no softliners in this. There are no moderates in this. This is political Islam, which is operating in Iran. So in that, either you do a regime change, or this won't work any other way around. Or you put boots on the ground. And the way the geography of the Strait of Hormuz is towards the Iranian side, it is on a high. It will be much more easier for the Iranians to target the Strait of Hormuz rather than the other way around. So this is easier said than done. This is something which will not happen right now. You can really pulverize Iran, but till such time you don't have a regime change, you will not have anything. And since President Donald Trump says the regime change is not his objective and the current people are more moderate than the previous ones, I mean, God help him for that. But the fact remains is that things are not going in any way. I mean, nothing concrete has happened. I mean, he said that the Strait of Hormuz is going to be open. I mean, this has been blocked for the past 2 days and nobody can do a damn about it. This is going to continue. There are going to be some good days in Strait of Hormuz. There are going to be some very bad days in Strait of Hormuz. So people will have to look at alternative, plans, alternative supply chains, alternative defense technologies, so that, Iran is also made to feel the pain for what it is doing to the global economy. But that can only happen is if we are very clear, if we are there, if the countries involved are actually clear as to what do they want to do with Iran. Simply, if Iran continues to fire, continues to have ballistic missile capability, continues to have all this, continues to operate the proxies, this is not going anywhere.
So Qatar and Pakistan are the mediators of the talks that are taking place. Do you think that Iran will listen to them? And what do you think the future of the Middle East looks like at this point?
Middle East is sort of in a place where you have, dominant powers. You have Iran, which is a legatee of the Persian Empire, which is thousands of years old Persian Empire. And then there is a revolution in 1979, and then the Shia revolution, and it is the Shia shoulder of Islam. Then you have Turkey, which is a legatee of the Ottoman Empire, and it believes it thinks that it is one of the biggest players in the Middle East. Then you have Saudi Arabia, which is the custodian of the two holy mosques. These are the dominant powers in the region. Now, Pakistan does not even have a play in all this, okay, except that Pakistan has a defense agreement with Saudi Arabia and Qatar. Qatar is basically gas money from Ras Lafan's field. Qatar is basically using money to gain clout. Qatar is Muslim Brotherhood to gain clout. These are side players in the game. I mean, they are there because the Americans want them to be there. Be it Qatar, be it Pakistan. But the principal players of the game, they are actually batting for their own dominance in the Middle East. That is why Iranian proxies are there. That is why Saudi Arabia plays its own games. That is why Turkey plays its own games. So in all this thing, I don't think so Qatar and Pakistan, barring being mediators, they are nothing beyond that. I mean, they are these two people who are backed by Americans. who are trying to tell their Iranians to see the day, to make them understand what is good for them, so that the peace prevails. But beyond that, I don't think so. Yesterday, when the talks were taking place, and when President Donald Trump said something nasty to the Iranians, they just walked out. And these guys are just looking up and down. I mean, you look at that image of Shehbaz Sharif, he doesn't know which way is coming, which way is going. And then you have, these weird statements coming out of, the US interlocutor, Vice President J.D. Vance, where he says that, he has two close allies. One is his wife, who's an Indian, Usha Vance, and then the other person is Asim Munir. My God, he doesn't even know what the two are all about. Yeah, I mean, Asim Munir. I mean, this was the guy who was the DG Aayesha when Pulwama happened. This was the guy who was the army chief when Pahalgam happened. This is the guy who talks about sort of, he's a Hindu hater. And you want to, equate the two of them? I don't even know whether J.D. Vance knows what he's talking about. So, Middle East, it's a game where everybody is using political Islam to drive its own games. You have Saudis with the Sunni game, Iran with the Shia game, you have Turkey with the Ottoman game. And in midst of all these, you have other bit players who are trying to sort of, derive their own power using their own economic clout. But this is what Middle East is, and it is going to continue to remain unstable, because Iran will continue to target Israel through proxies directly. And it is now targeting also countries like UAE, for that matter, because it has ties with Israel. So this is going to be unstable. You can have continuous dialogues time and again, but if you are looking for a permanent solution of Middle East, permanent peace, I don't think so.
So do you think that there's any one nation that's looking at all of these developments occur and maybe enjoying the position that America is in?
You would have Russia, because what Ukraine did to Russia, Iran is doing to America. You would have China, who would be more than happy to sort of, gain dominance using this whole chaos in the Middle East. You have these two powers clearly, because China is very clearly, it's the upcoming power, it's ascendant power. And if you look at all the weapons that have been supplied to Iran, majority of them are of Chinese origin. This is a place where everybody is trying to dominate or using that time to grow. China would be using that time to really grow. And this is going to create a lot of problems within, in North Asia, in Southeast Asia. This is going to continue in problem. Russia would be happy. Russia would be happy because, this is exactly what Ukraine is doing to Russia right now. Iran has done to US. There are no good players or bad players in the game. I mean, everybody works for his own interests.
So thank you so much for joining us and decoding the games that are being played. With that, it's a wrap, but do stay tuned for more.